There's something about midnight that speaks louder than the noise of the day. Everything is still. The world has stopped pretending. And all that's left is truth. Have you ever wondered why her thoughts drift back to you in those silent, vulnerable hours? It's not about the messages you sent. It's not about the flowers or the fights. It's about the impact, the echo you left behind. And that echo, it gets louder when the world gets quiet. Let me take you back to a winter night in Manhattan when I sat across from a woman, strong, successful, fearless, and yet when the topic of love came up, her entire body shifted. I saw her shoulders soft and voice cracked, and she whispered, "I still think of him every night, especially at midnight, not because he was perfect, but because he saw her, because he made her feel something so real, it carved a permanent place in her memory." And maybe you've been that person to someone too. But here's the real question: why does she remember you? That's what we're going to talk about, not the fantasy, not the illusion, but the truth of human connection, legacy, and the power of presence. Let's begin. Because you made her feel seen. It's easy to compliment someone's appearance, to remark on the sparkle in her eyes, the curve of her smile, the way the light catches her hair. These things are surface level. They're the kind of words anyone can say, the kind of attention that anyone can give. But to truly see someone, to look beyond the surface, beyond the mask they wear for the world, and notice the pieces they try desperately to hide it, that is rare, that is powerful, that is unforgettable. She remembers you because at some point you did that. You didn't just see the version of her she presented, polished, confident, guarded. You saw the quiet trembling behind her smile. You noticed the hesitation in her voice when she talked about things she wished she could forget. You saw the vulnerability that she masked with humor and sarcasm. You heard the words she didn't say, the ones trapped behind walls built by pain, fear, and doubt. And when a woman is truly seen like that, it touches her soul in a way that love alone cannot. Love can be loud, it can be messy, but to feel genuinely seen, that is quiet, sacred, and lasting. It's a feeling of being known on a level so intimate, so profound, it breaks through every defense she's ever built. It is a gift she remembers in the deepest corners of her heart. Think back to that moment when she chose to open the door you never expected her to open. When she shared her childhood scars, the ones she never talks about. When she confessed her fears, not just the usual surface worries, but the ones that keep her awake at night. When she revealed the dreams she's too afraid to chase. In that moment, you didn't fix her. You didn't try to solve her problems or judge her past mistakes. You just listened. Not with distracted ears or half-hearted attention. You listened with your whole being, without distraction, without ego, without expectation. You were fully present, just you and her. That kind of attention is rare. It's magnetic. It pulls people in because it makes them feel safe enough to be their true selves without fear of rejection. And when midnight rolls around and she's lying there alone, wrapped in silence and her thoughts, that's what lingers. Not the fancy dinners, not the gifts, not the fleeting moments of passion, but the way you made her feel like she mattered, like her feelings, her fears, and her story were important, like she was seen and valued exactly as she was in all her messy, complicated humanity. In today's world where everyone is desperate to be noticed on social media, noticed in crowded rooms, noticed in the chaos of everyday life, we confuse being noticed with being truly known. But the people we remember, the ones who leave a mark on our souls, are the ones who make us feel known. Known for our flaws, our contradictions, our vulnerabilities, and our strengths alike. When a woman is truly seen, it transforms her. It shifts something inside her that no amount of words or gestures can replicate. It helps her reclaim parts of herself she had lost. Her confidence, her voice, her courage. It lets her know she is worthy of love, not for what she does, but for who she is beneath all the masks. And this seeing doesn't end when the conversation ends. It stays with her in the quiet moments, the times when the world fades and only her true self remains. She remembers the warmth in your eyes when she spoke her truths, the patience in your silence as she wrestled with her pain, the absence of judgment or rush. This is why she remembers you at midnight, because you offered her a rare kind of connection, one that went deeper than skin and surface, down to the heart of what it means to be human. To truly see someone is to acknowledge their whole story, their scars and dreams alike. It is to say without words, "I see you, all of you, and you are enough." When you do that, you don't just touch her, you change her. That kind of presence, that kind of seeing, is a flame that never burns out. It's what makes you unforgettable. So remember this: it's not the grand gestures, the gift, or the fleeting moments that linger in her heart when the world is silent. It's the way you made her feel, truly, deeply, unconditionally seen. And in a world where most people only skim the surface, that is everything. Because you challenged her to grow. She doesn't remember you simply because you were kind, or because you knew the right things to say. She remembers you because you had the strength to do what most won't. You didn't let her stay small. You didn't allow her to sink into comfort and hide in the shadows of her potential. You weren't just a warm place to fall. You were the mirror she couldn't look away from, the one who reminded her of who she was meant to be. You challenged her. You didn't just listen to her dreams. You asked her what she was doing to chase them. You didn't just hold her when she cried. You helped her face the reason she was crying. You loved her, yes, but you loved her in a way that demanded expansion, not complacency. You loved her like someone who knew she was capable of more, even when she didn't believe it herself. And let's be honest, that kind of love is not always easy to receive. It doesn't come wrapped in a bow. It's not always soft, and it's rarely comfortable. Sometimes it looks like tough conversations. Sometimes it looks like silence when she wants affirmation, or honesty when she wants reassurance. Sometimes it even looks like walking away, not out of cruelty, but because you knew she needed to rise, and she couldn't do that if you kept cushioning the fall. You told her things she didn't want to hear, things like, "You're playing small, you're hiding from your greatness, you're making excuses and you know it." Those words stung in the moment. Maybe she pushed you away. Maybe she resented you for seeing the parts of her she tried to ignore. Maybe she painted you as the antagonist in her story because it was easier than admitting the truth. But the truth always finds its way in. And at midnight, when the world is quiet, when the filters fall away, when she's left alone with her thoughts, she remembers. She remembers the strength in your voice, the unwavering belief in your eyes. She remembers the way you refused to let her settle for a version of herself that wasn't whole. And slowly, silently, that remembrance transforms into gratitude. You weren't there to make her comfortable. You were there to make her grow. And that is a different kind of love. One that lingers. One that shapes her even after you're gone. Growth is uncomfortable. It requires breaking down the walls we've built around our insecurities. It demands the death of old identities. It's messy and raw and often misunderstood. But if you stood by her through that, if you held her accountable without tearing her down, then you became part of her transformation. And there is nothing more unforgettable than the person who stood in your fire and helped you rise from the ashes. Because here's the thing, most people love you for who you are in the moment, but very few love you for who you could be. You were one of those rare souls who saw her not just for what she was, but for everything she was capable of becoming. And while she may not have known how to receive that at first, deep down she felt it. She still feels it. That's why your voice still echoes in her head long after the world has gone to sleep. Maybe you weren't easy. Maybe you weren't the fairy tale. But you were real. You were the one who looked her in the eye and said, "Don't shrink, rise." You reminded her that she was built for more, and whether she ever says it or not, you became a defining moment in her evolution. Not everyone can handle being that person. It takes courage to call someone higher. It takes even more to stand firm when they resist you. But you did it anyway, not because it was easy, but because you knew she was worth it. And now, at midnight, when she's staring at the ceiling wondering how far she's come, she remembers you. Not because you told her she was enough, but because you made sure she knew it. Not because you stayed no matter what, but because you had the strength to leave when staying meant letting her fall short of who she could be. You were the challenge that changed her, the mirror that reflected her power, the push she didn't ask for, but desperately needed. And that kind of presence, it doesn't fade, it becomes a part of her story forever. Because you loved her without conditions. We live in a world where love often comes with terms and conditions. Where "I love you" is quietly followed by "as long as you stay this way." Where affection is measured, rationed, and withheld the moment someone doesn't meet our expectations. But the love you gave her, it wasn't like that. It didn't come with a checklist or a deadline. It didn't require her to perform to perfect. You loved her as she was, flaws, fears, and all. And that is why she remembers you. You didn't fall for her potential, you loved her reality. You didn't love her because she fit some image of what you thought a partner should be. You loved her even when she was messy, even when her emotions didn't make sense, even when she pushed you away, not because she didn't care, but because she didn't know how to let someone stay. She had walls, emotional barricades built from years of betrayal, pain, and abandonment. Most people knock once, then walk away. But you didn't leave when it got hard. You didn't flinch at her contradictions, the moments when she was warm one day and distant the next. You didn't run when she broke down over something small, because you understood it wasn't about the moment. It was about the mountain of weight she carried in silence. You were patient. Not because you were perfect, but because your love wasn't formative. It wasn't about control. It was about presence. You didn't try to fix her, because real love doesn't come to rescue, it comes to witness. You stood beside her, steady and quiet while she fought her own battles. You didn't try to carry her out of the storm. You held the umbrella while she found her footing. That kind of love leaves a permanent mark. You weren't loud with your affection, but your calm became her anchor. The sound of your voice, steady and grounded, reminded her that not all love has to shout to be strong. You made space for her silence, for her confusion, for her healing. And maybe she didn't say it then, maybe she didn't even know how to, but she felt it. And that feeling, it stayed. Because the truth is, people don't remember every word you say, they remember how you made them feel. And you made her feel safe. Not safe because you promised to never hurt her, but safe because you didn't abandon her when she was at her most unlovable. At midnight, when the world goes quiet, when the mask slips and the old ache returns, it's not the men who flirted with her, the ones who wanted her only when she smiled and danced and sparkled, that come to mind. It's the one who saw her pain and didn't flinch, the one who stayed present through the chaos, the one who didn't walk away when she didn't have it all together. She remembers you because in a world of conditions, you were unconditional. You didn't just love the easy parts. You embraced the whole mosaic of her being. And in doing so, you gave her a love that was rare. A love that didn't seek to change her, but to understand her. A love that didn't ask for more, but simply offered itself freely. You showed her something she didn't know existed. A love that didn't leave. A love that didn't shrink in the face of difficulty. A love that didn't punish her for being human. And maybe you're not there anymore. Maybe life pulled you both in different directions. But even if time and distance have taken you out of her life, they haven't erased you from her memory. Because the kind of love you gave, it stays etched into the soul. She might lie there in the dark, tracing old memories like constellations, trying to understand why you still live in her heart. And the answer is always the same, because when she was unsure of her worth, when she was wrapped in doubt and shame and self-protection, you saw her. You stood with her. You didn't ask her to be anything other than who she was. That's why she remembers, not because your love was real. And in a lifetime of fleeting affection and performance-based approval, that one moment of true, unconditional love. That's the kind of thing she'll carry with her always. Because you walked away with dignity. There comes a point in every story where love is not enough to hold two people together. Where understanding doesn't bridge the silence, where effort meets resistance. And sometimes the most powerful act of love is not in holding on, it's in letting go. Not with bitterness, not with blame, but with quiet dignity. That's what you did. You didn't chase her when she hesitated. You didn't beg for her affection when it was withheld. You didn't throw words like daggers when she pulled away, confused or afraid. You didn't crumble into pieces or perform pain just to make her feel guilty. No, you stood in your worth and you walked away with your head held high. That is not weakness. That is strength. The kind of strength that doesn't come from pride, but from self-respect. You knew what you brought to the table. You knew your heart was pure. You knew your intentions were true. And so when it became clear that she couldn't meet you where you stood, not out of malice, but maybe out of fear, confusion, or timing, you chose yourself. You didn't become cruel. You didn't try to manipulate her into staying. You simply honored your value by not forcing someone to see it. And that, believe it or not, is what stays with her. Because there is something unforgettable about a man who loves deeply but refuses to lose himself in the process. It humbles her, not in a way that shames, but in a way that reveals. It forces her to see the difference between a man who is needy and a man who is whole, between someone who clings out of fear and someone who releases with grace. You didn't punish her for her indecision. You didn't turn your love into leverage. You didn't weaponize your vulnerability. You loved her with open hands, not clenched fists. And when the time came, you let those hands fall to your sides, not out of defeat, but out of clarity. And now, in the silence of midnight, she feels it. She feels the absence of your chaos, less love. The kind of love that didn't try to control her, didn't need to be loud to be real. She misses the steadiness you brought, the peace of knowing she was seen, even in her flaws. But more than anything, she misses the way you made her feel safe, because you were safe within yourself. We often remember the people who break us, but we never forget the ones who showed us what it meant to love without losing dignity. Your silence now speaks more than 1,000 texts ever could, because it says, I cared deeply. But I care about myself, too. It says, I wanted us, but I will not beg for what should be freely given. It says, I wish you well, but I will not stay where I am not fully met. You didn't walk away to make a statement. You walked away because staying meant shrinking, and you promised yourself you'd never do that again. That kind of decision, it echoes not with noise, but with presence. A presence she still feels when she's alone in her room, thinking back on what she had and what she couldn't hold on to. You taught her something powerful, that a man can love fully without losing his center. That love is not about sacrificing your identity to prove your devotion. That true masculinity is quiet strength, quiet presence, quiet departure when love becomes one-sided. And now, while others might text late at night hoping for another chance, you remain still, you remain silent, and in that silence she hears everything she needs to know. You are not the storm, you are the calm after, and she will carry that peace, that lesson, and that echo of your dignity with her, whether she ever admits it or not. Because when a man walks away in peace, not in punishment, when he leaves with love still in his heart, but clarity in his soul, he becomes a memory that time cannot erase. And that's who you are to her now, not the one who made a scene, not the one who begged to stay, but the one who walked away with love and with honor. And in a world that glorifies chaos, your quiet dignity made the loudest impact of all. Because you left a piece of your soul behind. Not every connection is meant to last a lifetime, but some are meant to leave a mark so deep they echo through it. Most people pass through our lives like shadows in the sun, flitting, distant, gone before we even realized they were there. But you were not just a chapter in her life, you were a turning point. A page she reads when the world quiets down. A piece of her story she can't skip, no matter how far she's come. Because you didn't just pass through, you left a piece of your soul behind. It wasn't grand gestures or fairy tale moments, it was something quieter, more honest, more real. It was the way you laughed together, not just at jokes, but at life. At the absurdity of it, at the beauty in the ordinary. It was the way you could talk about everything and nothing for hours. The way your silence never felt empty, but full. The way you saw her when she didn't even see herself. You weren't perfect. You made mistakes. You had flaws. But you showed up. You were present. You didn't ghost her when things got hard. You didn't pretend to be someone you weren't. You offered something that so many people are too afraid to give, your truth. And that's what made you unforgettable. She remembers the way your presence made her feel like home. The way your arms didn't just hold her, they made her feel held by the universe. The way your voice could cut through the noise in her head and remind her she wasn't alone. The way your energy filled the room before you ever said a word. That kind of soul connection doesn't just vanish. She hears your laugh in the middle of a movie she used to watch with you. She smells your cologne in a crowd and turns half expectant to see your face. She hears your favorite song playing in a cafe, and for a moment she's back there with you, sharing a coffee, sharing a moment, sharing something that felt timeless. You became woven into the fabric of her world, not because you forced your way in, but because you showed up so authentically that your presence etched itself into the corners of her life, into the playlists, into the way she responds to certain words, because they were yours, into the late night reflections where your name floats to the surface, uninvited but undeniable. She doesn't remember you at midnight because she's weak or lonely or stuck in the past. She remembers you because some people never really leave. You changed her, you woke something up inside her, you showed her a different kind of connection, one that didn't require perfection, only presence. And once someone tastes that kind of realness, they can never truly forget it. Maybe she's moved on. Maybe she's built a life that looks complete from the outside. But no matter how many years pass, no matter who lies beside her now, there's a part of her that still carries you. A part that knows this person, this soul saw me, held space for me. Left something behind that no time, no distance, no new love could erase. And you feel it too, don't you? Even if you've moved on, even if you've grown. There's still a moment every now and then where her name catches in your chest. Where a memory sneaks into your day and catches you off guard. Because you didn't just leave a piece of your soul behind, you took a piece of hers with you. You were part of something real, something that didn't need to last forever to mean everything. And that's what midnight is for. It's when the world goes quiet, when distractions fade, when hearts speak louder than minds. And in those quiet hours she remembers, not because she's stuck, but because your soul was never just a visitor. You were home. And no matter where she sleeps now or who she wakes up next to, your presence lingers in the spaces she doesn't talk about, in the parts of her heart that still feel your touch, in the story she lives now that will always carry your fingerprint. You weren't just someone she dated. You weren't just a lesson you were a moment that mattered. And stories like that, the ones written in truth, in presence, in soul, they don't fade, they live. Will worry to be. So now I ask you, when the people you love sit in silence, when the noise fades, when midnight comes, what will they remember? Will they remember a man who sought validation, or a man who gave value? Will they remember someone who clung, or someone who taught them how to rise? Because the legacy you leave behind in someone's soul is not about time, money, or promises, it's about presence, purpose, truth. You are unforgettable, not because of what you did, but because of who you chose to be. So be that person, live boldly, love deeply, walk with dignity, and never ever dim your light for anyone who doesn't see it, because the right ones, they will remember you not just at midnight, but for a lifetime.